All right, listen up, y'all.
Greetings, everybody. This is another episode of All Things Education Official, the channel that discusses all things education from a Black perspective. I am your host and educator, Mr. Abdullah, the teacher that you should have had but never did. Today, we're going to discuss absenteeism, not only from the teacher's side, but from the student side.
Well, Pam, the focus is on those students who fall into the chronic absenteeism category, and that's 18 absences or more, both excused and unexcused. School leaders I spoke with say several factors play a role, including parents just not understanding the importance of having their child in school every day.
I remember when I was growing up, there was a time when if you told your parents that you were sick and you couldn't go to school, that came at a cost. It wasn't just you were laying around chilling on the game or on the phone, because that wasn't an option for us. What that meant was you were going to be laying in that bed in your pajamas, drinking soup with Vicks Vapor Rub and drinking water and juice. That's what it meant. So oftentimes, my generation, we just got up, went to school sick, because not to mention, that's where all the fun was. Not so much today, and that's what we need to discuss, how that affects not only the individual, the family, but it also affects the community. But we need to give it some context. We do understand that poverty, low income rates do have an effect on the attendance of students. And it's very, very important. According to the Admentum article, How Chronic Absenteeism Affects Student Achievement, chronic absenteeism is experienced by students of all races, ethnicities, genders, and socioeconomic backgrounds. But chronic absenteeism also occurs in every grade level. And how does it impact student achievement? Well, according to this, it impacts it at every level. It is especially concerning during the formative years. Students who are chronically absent during early elementary grades, when class time is mainly focused on developing the foundation for academic success through math and reading skills, are less likely to be reading proficiently by the third grade. Now, that's extremely important. Education is building blocks. And if your child is missing days in its early years, it's a high likelihood that he or she will not be able to read. Reading is the foundation for every other subject. You have to be able to read to get the information and process it. I understand that we need to talk about the economics of it. We have single parents. That is another problem in our community that affects every other area of life. But low income parents that just don't make enough money, and sometimes they're working night shifts. Sometimes they're at work when the child's supposed to go to school. These are all things to consider. Because if you want to go down the street with it, some of these parents, because of this, their children are up late at night because they're away at work. And I have a suggestion for that, and we're going to talk about that. It's real simple. It's going to require a little bit of gumption, a little bit of oomph, but I think you can do it. So we're going to talk about that. It says that the added impact of the pandemic on absenteeism could also have lasting effects on student achievement. So we are out of the pandemic, but we are still feeling the effects of the pandemic via the academic system. Talking about specifically in this broadcast, we're talking about absenteeism. Now, according to Fortune, the Fortune article, fortune.com, written August 11, 2023, it's not just the office people don't want to go to. COVID looks to have permanently severed something as school attendance plummets and keeps on dropping. Now, that's interesting to know that this is not something that they think will self-correct. They're talking about something that's going to be a permanent fixture. We're talking about chronic absenteeism. All told, an estimated 6.5 million additional students became chronically absent, according to the data, which was compiled by Stanford University education professor Thomas D. in partnership with the Associated Press. Taken together from the data from 40 states and Washington, D.C., this provides the most comprehensive accounting of absenteeism nationwide. Absences were more prevalent among Latino, Black, and low-income students, according to D's analysis. And that lends back to what I was speaking on earlier. We understand that low-income families have different challenges than those that have a primary breadwinner and a stay-at-home mom, or those who have a little bit more finance where they can afford before care services, after care services. They have a flexible schedule. Many people that are low income brackets, they don't have those abilities to come and go as they please at work, have the flexibility to leave their work to attend to their child's needs, or work on a schedule that will be much more conducive for them to interact with their child after school hours. So these things are extremely, extremely important. And according to NPR, 3 years since the pandemic wrecked attendance, kids still aren't showing up to school. Now that's something right there. Students who are chronically absent are at a higher risk of falling behind and scoring lower on standardized tests and even dropping out. And as often happens in education, students who struggle with attendance are also more likely to live in poverty, be children of color, or have disabilities. Once again, we talk about the oppressive systems of this country, but we also talk about how the systems within the system, such as the educational system, it does not give allowances for parents who don't make a lot of money. We, as educational districts, we work to try to accommodate students as much as possible, but some things need to be fixed from the ground up, and we're only putting a Band-Aid on it. And the reason why I say this is because we're relying on parents to cover those bases for us. I can't count how many times I've had students come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and they are exhausted. And I'm saying, why are you so tired? And the reasons always are the same. I mean, every now and again, there's an anomaly, there was an emergency, but for the most part, they're saying the same things. I was on the game. I was up watching a movie. I was on the group chat. I was on the group FaceTime. These are the things these children are doing. And I'm talking upwards to 3, 4 in the morning. Whereas we know those allowances were given to us because we didn't have cell phones growing up. Some of us, maybe the millennials, that was the beginning of that. But before that, that wasn't an option. And the suggestion and solution I have for you is something that I employ in my own home. Give up the phone. The phone is shut down. There's no electronics after a certain period of time. Give me that phone. Give me the controller to that game. If I got to take the plug out the TV, I do that. I just unplug it if I have to. But you've got to get a certain amount of sleep in order for you to function properly. And I'm going to tell you, kids are grumpy as hell when they are sleepy and forced to go to school. And I understand that some parents actually just don't even fight their kids. They say, I'm not going to argue with you. You don't want to go to school, don't go to school. Well, that definitely affects their education, but on the school side, it affects the attendance rates. That attendance rate is they're kicked up to district superintendents, assistant superintendents, and our principals are one that have to hear about it. So that puts a strain on people like myself who work in support staff services. So we have to make calls. It was a point in time where I actually had to go out to homes. They have attendance units that go and say, hey, why is this kid not here? Why are they in the bed sleep? I've went to homes at 11 o'clock in the afternoon and the parent and the child were in there sleeping. So it's going to take some discipline. It's going to take some time. Let's not be coy here. It's not just the students. We're talking about teachers as well. According to Brookings.edu, high teacher absenteeism has important consequences for students. Chronically absent teachers can cause their classes to stagnate and potentially compel colleagues to work harder to pick up the slack. So we're not just talking about students becoming absent. We're talking about staff. And I like to speak truth to power. I like to speak on myself. As an educator, there have been different stints in time where I called in because I just couldn't get up. I was just burned out. I had a hard day the day before. And I can honestly say that I said to myself, oh, they'll be okay. But that was me being disingenuous and being dishonest, not only with myself, but with the future of my staff members as well as my students. And I'd like to get on here and say that that's not acceptable from me or anyone else in the field of education. It's incumbent upon us to be there to provide those services so we can give our children in particular the best chance possible. According to nctq.org, the roll call, frequent teacher absences have a negative impact on student performance. A 10-day teacher absence has shown to lower student achievement in math by amount equivalent to students being taught by a beginner teacher versus a teacher with 3 to 5 years experience. Teacher absenteeism is also a financial and administrative burden for districts. By one estimate, the nation's school districts spend approximately $4 billion annually to find and hire substitute teachers. On average, teacher absences cost districts an additional $1,800 per teacher per year, based on the data from the 2017 study. I would be so interested in seeing what do those numbers look like in 2023 because that was the last time the study was done pre-pandemic. Now that we're after pandemic and students have gained a level of comfortability with being online, using computers, not getting up at a certain hour to be at a certain place at a certain time, I would love to see those numbers, and I can pretty much guarantee that they are through the roof. The reason why this conversation is extremely important is because we need to understand the importance of working together as individuals, families, and communities. We've got to set the line, show those children that being in school is important. We understand that this is an oppressive educational system, but we've got to teach them to navigate a system. And how do you navigate the system? First things first, you gotta be there. Once again, this is Mr. Abdullah, your All Things Educator with All Things Education Official. I am the teacher that you should have had but never did, but I want you to know I need you to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Once again, I need you to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Put me in the algorithm. Let people know that if you want to know about education from a Black perspective, it is extremely important that you come on over to this channel, see what I got to say, take some of the things I say and run with it. Thank you. And once again, you are dismissed.
Yeah! You are all expurgated. You are dismissed.